A bit of wine back there, so why don't you take a quick break, but don't go out the door and leave, because you're going to miss something really good. Between the far infrared heating panels and some other information we've got, you're going to want to hear this, okay? We've got
Okay. Quick little background with me. I've been a heating contractor, heating AC contractor for over 35 years. Give me my age away. And this is the only heating product that I've ever endorsed. In those 35 years, I have never endorsed a heating product. I got started with Presteel, which was Lexan 6 years ago. Presteel, a little background on them. Presteel is a European company, which we made Presteel USA and bought the rights and patents from Presteel Europe. And we brought it over to the United States. This is manufactured in Spokane, and the head office, the main office manufacturer is in Simi Valley. Probably not going to use this too much, so we can get through it quickly. But suffice it to say, this is far infrared. This is long wave infrared, and there's actually two types of infrared. There is the short wave infrared that you can see, that you're standing up at a counter and it's heating the counter. You can see it glowing red. That's short wave. The heating bulbs in bathrooms, those red bulbs in bathrooms, that's short wave infrared. If you can see it, it is not far infrared. How many have heard of far infrared saunas and spas? Same thing. Far infrared, we didn't invent far infrared. It's been around forever. It is healthy heat. It is being used far infrared saunas for therapy. So, but what we did is we invented a product that produces far infrared waves that is much more efficient, and I want to stress it is not carbon based. And I'll get into that later. Far infrared is radiant heating, if you will. Okay? It does not heat the air. It's the same energy as the sun, less UV rays, obviously. It is, you cannot see the infrared waves. By side, I wish I had brought my infrared camera, I could show you. But it's radiant heating. Let me just show you too. What's inside these panels, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself, is called thin film. And this is what's inside those panels. And what this is called, and I won't fire hose you with a lot of information, but this is called positive temperature coefficient material, meaning it is self-regulated and it is non-carbon based. And the reason why I stress it is non-carbon based is carbon, like us, we need to be regulated. These do not. Once they start using electricity, they will maintain a certain wattage. Now this is the new product that we have. This starts out at about 300 watts and settles down to about 250, and that's what it stays at. So my point is that you don't need any mechanical devices built in to the panel for regulation, which means one thing, is these will last virtually forever, because there's nothing mechanical to go wrong with it. Okay? The only mechanical thing that we have in these panels is a high limit switch, which UL made us put in to get our approval. He's been in Europe for over 20 years. This thin film, which is proprietary, is in airplanes for de-icing, is it in high-speed trains to heat the cabins in high-speed trains. It is used for a lot, even buses. We've got a project going on in Canada where we're going to be doing about 2,000 buses with just the thin film. But all of that said and done, it's radiant heating. Now, I'm going to say this, that, and and I usually get the deer in the headlight look when I say this, so bear with me. These are not electric heaters, okay? And the reason why I say that is they are not designed to produce heat, measurable by BTUs, British Thermal Units. That's what all heaters are measured by, including electricity. Now, they will produce heat, but that's secondary. That's just a little extra that you get for convection purposes, but that's not its design. It's designed, when this thin film heats up, it produces photons. It produces the far infrared waves. Okay, just this little, well, it's actually 24 by 24, but this is, that's all it's inside these. Okay, that produces far infrared waves. The far infrared waves emits into the room, heats objects. Okay, it does not heat the air. It actually goes around air molecules. It will not heat air molecules. Once the floor, any furniture, once that heats up by this far infrared, that's what emits the heat into the room. Now the good news about that is all the objects inside this room are heat sinks. And the reason why I say that is they're absorbing the far infrared waves, they're getting warm, and they stay warm, which is beneficial because most of you probably have forced air heating systems, okay? Now, have you ever noticed that during the wintertime, that furnace will come off, go off, probably, you know, what, half a dozen times an hour type of thing? If you ever notice that the room will cool off quickly, okay? Generally, the set point temperature on the thermostat is 1 degree high, 1 degree low. So you got a 2 degree set point. If you set it at 68, it comes on when the room is 67, goes off at 69. But during that time, it's going to cool off, and you're going to feel it. You're going to feel the draft. That's what these do not do, because once that room is heated up, thermostat is satisfied, you still have heat. It's not cooling off because you have all of these heat sinks. Each one of these chairs can be a heat sink. All of you can be a heat sink and absorb that. Now the nice thing about far infrared, again, we didn't invent it. It's a healthy heat, and what it does, and this is why they use them in spas and saunas too, and this is why the Japanese use them, it acts as a vasodilator. It will actually penetrate your skin or your body 1.5 inches to 2 inches. By doing so, by being a vasodilator, it increases the oxygenated blood to those areas. Now we have a lot of these panels. Incidentally, we started off as commercial because these panels, 2x2 and 2x4, were designed to fit in a T-bar ceiling. Everybody know what a T-bar ceiling is? Suspended ceiling in commercial. You look up and there's the either square or 2x4 panels in there. That's where these sizes came from. Now, we have a lot of these in extended care facilities. And this is what I've heard. I have not experienced this firsthand, but I have been told that a lot of people that have been in wheelchairs because of arthritis or for whatever reason are now getting out of their wheelchairs. Now, keep in mind, we are heating the entire building with far infrared. That's all they're experiencing. They don't have any other type of heat. So they are bombarded with far infrared waves. That's all day long, 24/7. So it doesn't surprise me that this is happening. Now, another thing, we just finished a home that converted to infrared waves. Matter of fact, they were all white. And incidentally, we can have custom colors too, so to match your ceilings. They put them all in the ceilings, they hardwire them, they turn them on. The thing before, the very first question that I get asked is, why would you want them in the ceiling? Heat rises, right? Okay. Heat does not rise. Hot air rises. That's the big difference. If heat rose, we'd be in an ice age because the sun would be ineffective. That is real, that you should carry that knowledge because that's what these do. They heat up objects, they don't heat air. Hot air rises, heat does not. So therefore, in the industry in heating and air conditioning, we have what they call stratified air or stratification. And generally in residential, it's about 3 feet, 30 inches, 3 feet high. Meaning, that's dead air, that's cold, okay? You know, little Susie, 2 years old, crawling on the floor, is cold. Okay, this doesn't happen with this because it's actually heating the floor as well. Now there is a 16-foot height limit, but it heats all the objects. Anything in the room it will heat. It will either get absorbed by the objects or reflect off of. Either way, it's heating whatever's in it. Okay, so that's really big to know. And just a little sidebar, I have a home up in Mendocino County on the coast. We have all propane. Anybody who knows propane, how expensive it is. I converted my home, it's 1,400 square feet. I have no attic, so I can't put them in the ceiling. So I hung them on the wall as artwork. Okay, they plug into a receptacle type thermostat. It's a programmable thermostat. I don't even have to touch it. It's set at a temperature. I saved, this was in August. Now August is pretty mild. It's not really cold yet. I saved the very first month on my utility bills $150. Very first. January and February are usually my highest months for propane. It's not uncommon that I have a $500 a month bill. I saved $300 those months each month. That's how much lower my utility bills were. And of course it's a different heat. It's not, you don't feel drafts, it's silent, it's not moving around air, you're not getting any allergies if you have allergies.
I have a question.
Sure.
How does this deal with like electronics? Like, say if you had one of those in a room with like all kinds of like media
Doesn't affect
stuff.
Not at
No?
all. And that's, glad you brought that up too, because you can actually hardwire these in permanent into your structure, have them operated. If all of you have forced air systems, you are operating off a 24-volt low voltage thermostat on the wall. Okay, you can still have that by using a series of relays, using your low voltage thermostat, and you can actually have as many zones as you want. The last house we did had 3 zones, and 2 bedroom, they had 1 in each bedroom, and then 1 in the great area. So there's a lot of different ways you can mount these. When we installed these, Santa Barbara Contractors Association have these. It's the first generation that we installed. When they remodeled their office quite a few years ago now, we installed these panels to heat their offices. 2,100 square feet, separated in 3 zones. They have 2 2x4 panels in each of the offices, and surprisingly, we have a lot of the old-timer contractors and architects that come in. It's for a learning center. They have a lot of green products in there, and they want to show everybody what they have that was incorporated into the remodel. And a lot of the old-timers will come in, old-time contractors that I did business with way back when, would come in and they look like fluorescent lighting. And what they would ask is, why do you have 2 sets of lighting? Why aren't those on? And they say, well, that's what's heating the offices. First thing, that'll never work. All right. What's the temperature outside? Oh, it's about 50 degrees. What's the temperature inside? Oh, it's about 68. Where do you think the heat's coming from? Plain and simple. It's not, I mean, this isn't rocket science. So I get a lot of that too. But basically, it's radiant heating. We have about 300 different type of artwork that you can apply to these. I have all artwork because all of mine are on the panel. And everybody that comes into my home goes up to these panels and say, oh, this is nice artwork. And I tell them, well, it's heating the home. And they're like, what? what do you mean? And then I had to go through those. But 300 different type of artwork, and if you have a family portrait, all we need is a high-def photo, electronic photo, and you can have that on your panel. You can have custom colors to match ceilings, match the walls, so they blend in. I mean, there's so many different options you can do with these. But the big thing is, as I want to stress, is the type of heat it is. It is so comfortable. I don't even know these are on. At my home, I have no idea. There's no change in temperature like they did, like I had with my forced air. No change in temperature at all. It's just warm. I never noticed any difference. So, other than that, they're a great product. Like I said, in 35 years, I have never endorsed a product except now. Yes?
How big of a room will that heat and how much does it cost?
Good question. This panel will heat about a 10 by 12 room, standard bedroom. I have a guest bedroom that has one of them. Now here's the thing. To size them, there's a real easy formula. It's not the best formula, but it's a real easy formula. 4 to 6 watts per square foot. Cubic feet doesn't matter. We're only dealing with square feet. 4 to 6 watts. 4 watts if your home is really energy efficient. 6 watts if it's, you know, wind's blowing and it's blowing the curtains and windows are closed. Okay, so that's kind of an idea. Now I have 1,400 square feet. I should have, I think, about 14 panels, 14 2 by 2 panels. They come in different sizes, of course, but I have 11 in my home and it heats perfect. And I have not changed my windows out yet. I should be doing that soon. All single pane windows, kind of windows, take a squeegee on the inside and clean the windows there when it condenses. And it works great. Like I said, I don't even notice it. And that's the kind of heat you want. You don't want to notice it, you just want to hear it. And you don't want to hear it coming on. I get a lot of complaints for that. Yeah?
Are they also making the mirror version of that you could have in the bathroom?
There's a lot of products coming out, and it was on the PowerPoint. But the products that are coming out, this one just came out, this size came out. These are under desk models. You can mount them underneath your desk. You can control them however you want to control them for those office assistants that are always cold. They always have them. As a matter of fact, when I went to see April today at the Contractors Association office, I have to send them to her because she is always cold. It could be 80 degrees in here and she's cold. But that's the new product came out. The other products coming out are just the thin film. This is an older type film. The new film, you folks have seen the vinyl carpet runners. Okay, it's kind of that consistency of the new thin film. Now what they're doing is they're developing a product that will go behind the sheetrock. Okay, mount 16 center, 24-inch center, mount either on the ceiling or in the walls, and you sheetrock right over it. And what happens is the sheetrock becomes the heat sink. The sheetrock, it's like a sponge. The sheetrock is a sponge. And as soon as that sponge gets saturated with the infrared, it disperses the infrared into the room. You don't even see it. The problem is that UL, in their glory, they have a hard time grasping that concept. So we are struggling with UL trying to get that approved. It took us, it took us about a year and a half to get it approved through UL because they didn't know what they were looking at. So we had to go through the whole thing, write a white paper on it. And the funny thing is, when we installed these at the association office, the head inspector came in when he did the final inspection on it, on the interior remodel. He looked up and he says, okay, what the hell am I looking at? I says, and I told him, he says, well, what am I going to enforce? I says, well, these hook up just like any other fixture, electrical fixture, light fixture, what have you. That's all you need to worry about. Okay, signed it off. One of the things that most people run into is, everybody heard of Title 24 Energy Code for California? I don't know, how many people live in California that are in here?
Everybody.
Okay. California has Title 24, and basically what that does is you have to have the building, basically engineers have to figure out what the heat loss and heat gain is on a building, okay? And Title 24 does not allow you to have electric resistant heating, meaning, you know, those plug-in electric, you can't have any kind of electric heating. So when they see these, they say, well, okay, it's electric heating. You can't have it. Then I have to explain to them it's not an electric heater. And some of these guys just don't get it. But it's kind of fun to try to talk to them about it, because they just. But that's one of the things that a lot of people that will remodel their homes, and they'll want something like this, and then Title 24 engineers or whoever will come in and say, well, we can't incorporate that into it. And then I have to write, you know, this whole thing to support the homeowner who is remodeling. Actually kind of fun.
So what is the cost of a panel in size?
This panel here, the white and black are standard colors. You pay extra for the artwork, obviously. But a 2x2 panel, white or black, retails for $373. Okay? We did a study on this, and as far as the life expectancies on this is basically lifetime, because there's nothing to go wrong. I have had a couple of panels come from the manufacturer that were dead. Okay, so of course, you know, we had to exchange those. But there's nothing to go wrong. The only thing in this are these. And like I said, this is non-carbon based. There is no hot spots in here. So they projected a 50-year lifespan, which, you know, it'll long after I'm gone. Yes?
So I have two questions. One is, how would you control the amount of heat? Like, if does it get too hot, or, like, I mean, you know, like sometimes the room gets too hot and you turn it down,
Thermostat.
so that controls it.
Yeah,
Okay.
now this one obviously is a receptacle type thermostat that'll plug into the wall, and you plug the panel into the wall if you wanted to do that, hang it on the wall for artwork or whatever. A lot of people who have attic space are mounting these on the ceiling and hardwiring them in and using a standard low voltage thermostat. Same kind that you're using on a forced air system.
What do you do with the cord?
What's that?
What do you do with the cord?
You can either run it inside the wall, have an electrician do that for you, or in my case, I didn't want to go to that expense, so I went down to Home Depot, and they have these tracks that you can hide the cord in. Okay, and you can paint them out, it blends right into the wall. It's actually pretty easy to do.
How are the electrical wires attached to it? Are they slip-on connectors? Are they soldered on?
No, they are inside the connectors on these. They are locking connectors. Okay, that they use over in Europe, and we brought them over here. But it's almost like a stab fitting. It goes in and can't come out, and that's what locks those in. Yeah.
How do these panels work with mold?
Good question. Now, of course, they're not going to control mold. I mean, if you have it, you have it.
Yeah.
Now, what they will do, because they heat objects, they heat walls, they will keep the interior of the wall, depending on where your vapor barrier is, and in different parts of the country will either use 2 vapor barriers, or one on the outside, one on the inside, depending on, you know, the climates. But they will keep the interior of the wall warm, which will keep it dried out. Now, where you have mold, if you have moisture, you have to have 2 things: moisture and food. And if you have the conditions that are right, you'll have mold. And unfortunately, we're standing in it right now, or you're sitting in it. We have mold all around us. So, but this will actually help with that. It won't kill it, but it will help with that. Absolutely.
So
Yes.
can you use this on a boat?
Yes, absolutely you can. Anything that has 120 volt, most, boats do if they have converters or whatever. But we actually have these on, I'm trying to remember the owner. He had a yacht built. It was about I think it was a 30-footer or something like that, and he incorporated this into his, because he didn't want to use gas, obviously, so he incorporated these into it.
What about, say, a stucco walled room, no insulation in the walls like a lot of homes do, and it's just a studio? How long of heat up time does it take that to warm the room?
Well,
Comfortable?
that's kind of a subjective answer.
Well, rounded.
Say for a 10 by 12 room.
Okay.
Okay, 10 by 12 room, if it's stucco, uninsulated, of course you would size the panel accordingly.
Correct.
Okay, in this case it'd probably be 6 watts per square foot or something like that. You're probably looking at about from 50, let's say 10-degree difference, 58 to 68. You're probably looking at about 30 minutes. My home, again, it's got 2x4 exterior walls, so it's not a whole lot insulation in there. Single pane windows. I have my thermostats programmed to stay at 60 at night, okay, and when I'm not there, and it raises it to 68 degrees in 20 minutes, the whole house. I was surprised. I didn't think that was even going to happen. But
Somebody was remodeling a house and there was already FAU in there.
mhm.
Would they use these panels, could they use these panels to replace the FAU?
Absolutely. That's just what I did. I had a home that installed these. It was on propane. They wanted to get rid of their propane bill, basically. So they incorporated these into the building. Now the nice thing about this, the way these started out, our first market area was for that remodeled room where that HVAC guy just didn't get it right when he added a duct into that room. It's always a cold room, basement room. That's what our first market was. And it just went from there. So
That's 240 watt, that 2x2?
this one here is 275 watts. A 2x2 is 400 watts. Okay. Now the beauty is, these will start off at about 300 watts and settle down to, it's 258 now. These start at 400 and settle down to 350. And that's where they stay. That's the self-regulation part of it. These will never get too hot. Period. Yeah, Mike.
What's the deal with like potential fire hazards and stuff? Like, do these things, can they like catch stuff on fire?
Well, if they did, UL wouldn't approve them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, we had to jump through so many hoops with UL to get these things approved. Now, these are also approved for 6 feet or under. Because to get that approval for 6 feet or under, you don't want little kids going up and burning themselves. These surface temperature on here had to be maintained at about 160 degrees or less to get approval for that. And we needed approval because they're going to be hanging them on the walls, and we don't want people to get burned.
How many panels to a timer or thermostat?
What's that?
How many, like in your house, the way you got it set up, you got them as pictures?
I have, for each thermostat here, if it warranted, I have two 2x2 panels. It's really all relative, depending on the size of wire, and I think this was asked of me earlier, but these come in various voltages, and I always, if you're going to incorporate these into your home as a heat source, your main heat source, I would go 240 volts, because that actually will free up your panel, because you don't need that many amps to operate at 240. And by doing so, the house that we installed didn't have to change their service on their panel. They were able to add a couple of breakers into it, and that's it. Okay, now, the thing is, like I said earlier, you can have these as many zones as you want, okay? And it doesn't cost you any more to do it. Not like HVAC systems where you've got dampers and you've got bypass systems, and you've got all kinds of different things if you want more than one zone in a heating system. These you can have as many as you want. And like I said, the last one I did had 3 zones.
I'm heating a 10 by 12-foot room, same with the space heater,
Mhm.
and then I go to this. What's the difference in my electric bill?
Good question. Now, everybody knows, and I was going to bring that up, and I'm glad you asked that. Everybody heard of 1 kilowatt in, 1 kilowatt out, right? Okay. All electric devices, 1 kilowatt in, 1 kilowatt out. I mean, you're not going to get any more just by the law of physics. And I don't know how they do it on this, and that's a 1-to-1 coefficient of performance, COP. These have a 2.5 minimum coefficient of performance, meaning that the heat energy from this film is 2.5 times, and I can't really say more efficient, but gives you 2.5 times more heat energy per kilowatt used. So that makes it a 2.5 coefficient of performance. I don't know how it works. I've actually measured it out myself, and so basically with these over a standard, let's say plug-in heater or electric furnace, if any of you have those, you'll save 2.5 times on your bill, minimum, for the same heat. Don't ask me, I'm not an engineer, I can't tell you.
Does your company offer warranties on the cells?
Yes, we do. Right now, for residential, it's 5 years on the panels, okay? And the reason for that, they went through the whole thing as far as electrical. Has anybody heard of tin whiskers? You ever heard that phrase, tin whiskers? When they stopped using lead in circuit boards, they started using tin. Well, tin will actually grow whiskers on those connections, and that's what shorts things out. Okay, that's why you always have a limited, a year, 2 years on electronics, just because of that. Well, they took a look at this, and there's no way these thin film can grow whiskers, but they also look at the industry and said, look, okay, we can't really offer, most manufacturers have to keep parts for 10 years. That's what, where they get this, I don't know, but that's what they have to do. They have to keep parts for 10 years, replacement parts. So, minimum. So they looked at the industry and they said, well, okay, we want to be better than the industry, but we can't get out there and say, okay, well, we're giving away panels after 10 years. Okay, it's not going to happen. But with the lifespan on these, the predicted lifespan is 50 years, but you get a 5-year. Now, commercial is, of course, completely different because the uses are different. And I think it's 2 years for commercial. Okay. But I'll make this vow. If any of these panels ever go south, and I'm still alive, you'll get a new one, because there's nothing to go wrong with them. If anything goes bad, it's because of the manufacturing process. And like I said, I've had 2 panels that came off the line that did not work. And it must have been a Friday afternoon panel. So. Any other questions? Good. Thank you all for coming to be here.